Oh, hi. Hi. Can you-
Hi, how's it going, everybody? Today is
Hello.
November 21st, 9:30 Pacific Standard Time, and it's been a pretty exciting weekend in the AI space, I think. I've added a couple of small things to the meeting notes here, which I will go ahead and use that link, put it into the agent protocol. Actually, I'll make it an event.
um hey Zay, are you recording? Or do you want me to record as well?
I am
Just
recording, and
in case.
it's
Okay.
actually working this time, unfortunately,
Okay.
for last time. But if you want to also record as well, just in case, then that's good.
Yeah,
Maybe,
sounds good.
you know. Let's see here. Two at everyone's in one day. That's not too bad, right? That's not a crime. Okay. So I'm actually a little out of the loop as far as the OpenAI stuff went. How's everybody else's thoughts on that? What happened? What's happening? What's the play? What's the plan?
So okay, Hunter, go ahead.
It was absolute madness this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Friday afternoon, uh, Sam Altman was just pulled into a Google Meet with all of the board members except his loyal Greg Brockman. And yeah, he was told that he's been removed as CEO and madness. They decided to remove Greg Brockman as well from the board with the intention of keeping him as a employee of OpenAI, and he immediately was like, "Nope, I resign. If you're taking out Sam, I'm leaving too. Goodbye."
Yeah, a lot of
And
loyalty
then
in OpenAI.
a lot of loyalty and just the absolute storm of social media. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? What, like, Sam is OpenAI. How could you do this? This is his company. And just an outpour of like all these anecdotes of like, oh, Sam saved my startup. Oh, Sam, I hit him up at 3 in the morning for tokens because my open source project was blowing up and he sent me thousands of dollars to use to continue building an open source. And basically, yeah, just this outpour of like people vouching for Sam, and then on Saturday they're like, "Sam, can you actually come back? We didn't mean to fire you." Um, and like his conditions for coming back, where the whole entire board needs to step down. Um, and apparently he went to the offices. He like posted pictures, and they were in negotiations. And I, from what I've heard, his communication kind of fell apart, and they couldn't really come to terms. And he was not coming back as the OpenAI CEO. And then Microsoft's CEO as well as Sam were like posting of, yeah, Sam and Greg are now joining Microsoft, and Sam will be the CEO of some small new team, or probably large team, but some new team that Microsoft is spinning up for him. And but now I'm hearing that he's still in negotiations with OpenAI. So I don't know. It's very odd situation going on right now, and we haven't really got a whole lot of clarity on where the chips have fallen. Yeah,
I
Sasha,
mean,
maybe you have some additional things I might have missed there.
You captured it pretty well, so thanks. I was gonna give a summary the same similar to you.
Oh, I'm sure we all were just absolutely glued to Twitter this weekend. It was just madness, like nonstop updates throughout the whole entire weekend. It was wild. I saw someone post it was if you're not in tech, just know that all of your tech friends just went through 3 seasons of Secession all in one weekend.
yeah,
I wanted to add that there's some controversy with the board. I mean, obviously, Ilya is I kind of forget his history. Was he on the Transformers paper? But he's, chief scientist, and he co-signed kicking Sam out. And then there's sort of two, alignment, AI safety, effective altruism type people on the board as well. And then what's his name? Something D'Angelo, and he's in charge of Poe. So that's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of or
Conflicts of interest for
yeah,
sure.
definitely a seemingly big conflict of interest there, because actually Poe just released their own like GPT App Store esque thing at late October, and then we know early November OpenAI released their App Store, and so people are like, was this motivated by like direct competition on the board, or what's going on there?
Yeah, and I was reading up on like the history of the board over time, and it's changed a lot, and this is like the smallest it's ever been. I think it was what, 6 people before the firings.
Yeah, 6 people.
I've seen a couple of conspiracy theories floating around too. I don't know if any of them have merit, but I mean, besides like some kind of vie for power or some kind of Microsoft takeover, so many different things that are kind of I don't know. They're just other things that I see on Twitter, I guess. There was one too that was talking about how maybe OpenAI uncovered some secret about AGI, and that's why they're doing yada yada yada. And I'm excited to see where things are leading. I know that somebody was talking about this potentially going into open source models. I mean, what do y'all think about the concept of that? Should we actually still sort of rely on a centralized singular source for these things? I mean, before it was really only OpenAI and Anthropic, and now we have Grok and some other sort of competition, and also Bard and other sort of competing major sources. And I'm sure, I think AWS has their own, right? I haven't really followed AWS's side, but what do y'all think about that and the like where we could be going here as far as like open source models and other alternatives to OpenAI? I know at least within my circles of development, everybody's kind of all right with relying on OpenAI. But if things like this happen, then where is that going to go? You know?
I saw somewhere on Twitter that there was this thing called like Open Router that's like really popular, and I think that is the direction ideally that a nonprofit should be able to be in charge of, and not like because um these type of things, I feel like it doesn't make sense to it's just AI infrastructure. And so it feels weird to have like a for-profit incentive to it. And I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
I know personally I like the idea of the source material being open source, but it's that not necessarily age old, but it's been used a lot, that open source profitable model where they have the, the underlying service is something that anybody can do, but then you price on top of that for the infrastructure, and things like that. So if I was able to run GPT-4 or whatever on my machine, then I could, but then if I don't want to pay for my machine, then I could use theirs. I like that model so much more than not having any other involvement in it, only being able to go through one source because it really locks you into that infrastructure. But I'm sure somebody else has a differing opinion on that.
I think this might be in general just, OpenAI's seeming misstep is definitely an opportunity for open source and just the wider, ecosystem. Having a diverse set of companies have a chance that may not shake out, obviously, but it's kind of, yeah, I'm looking at it as an opportunity to kind of catch up. I think a lot of other people are, and potentially compete in different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know there has been a pretty large shift into people wanting to host their own models now, right? This is kind of a lot of us have been building on the OpenAI ecosystem and using all their tooling. And when you rely so heavily on this company and they show you this huge like amount of like no transparency into their actions and what's going on, and kind of it's seemingly their company is like in shambles right now. Most of the employees like signed to this thing that will resign if Sam Altman doesn't come back. And yeah, so I've seen just a huge shift into people like looking into hosting their own models. I came across this thing on Twitter. It's this company like Banana Dev or something. I forget what it's called, but they essentially help you host your own models like that. And they said from Friday evening they saw a 15x in traffic and people wanting to host their own models. Because the trust in OpenAI has kind of just started to crumble over the weekend.
I'm Alex. I'm new to you. I'm just signed up to see what it's all about. Have you seen Claude's just released their new model? It's something like 200K context window, which is interesting. I don't think other models can actually get that long context, open source especially.
Quad 2.1. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, 200K context window is wild.
And it's only going to get bigger.
It always comes back to like how much of that is actually usable context. They've done all the metrics testing and it's like, oh well, here's 100K, but only about 20K is good, and then it sharply falls off into what it can actually leverage.
Well, hey man, don't forget what Bill Gates said back in the day about your memory requirements on your PC.
What's that?
He said something like you only need 15 kilobytes of RAM, something like that.
Damn.
$640K ought to be enough for anybody in 1981. It might be a legend. It's not necessarily fact, but it's the meme of it is that there's so much that we haven't even broached yet. The context window is only going to improve until it's infinite, nearly infinite. I think because it's the same as RAM in a way, except just for the language model, right? Sort of. But yeah, that's another alternative to OpenAI that people are probably going to start using more often. I know I've got a few buddies that are really into Anthropic's Claude as well.
I think from a like agents perspective, OpenAI obviously just launched their GPTs or assistants, and I think this is definitely overshadowing that now. So I don't know. I think any momentum that they had for people adopting that is going to be slowed a little bit, at least in the short term. It's a seemingly riskier thing to adopt and kind of tether your business to, than it was 2 weeks ago when they announced it.
That's
I'm,
true.
I'm again looking at that as an opportunity for more competition and open standards as well.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, people were all over Twitter saying that so many startups were now defunct because of the new changes that OpenAI were changing. Now I can only imagine that those startups are just right back where they were. But speaking of standards, I know that Puts was putting something into the chat earlier about creating a standard for specifying LLM output grammar. He also linked me something that we'll have to touch back on, but there are some things for open standards for these things that might help out in the future in the chat here.
Yeah, I was just reading through the his suggestion I wonder if you guys know already that there are things like this existing. This is one thought, and then second thought is the way that the open GPT models and the Anthropic model work, they're actually quite different. And so a unified way, maybe apply like the way the model the way that the model is trained, the way text is outputted is different. So for example, like the Claude does XML, I believe, better, and then uh GPT does JSON better. And so like if we like there are like differences, and if we do like the function calling specifically, um like what would it look like when there are differences in different models and we want to have a unified interface. The model may not maybe I guess what I'm saying is the model's output is not directly something that we can control, because that's something just the researchers have to figure out. But also, it may not be a feature that they care about, which is fine, I think. But maybe I think what they could do is, from the engineering side, creating adapters on top to convert a different format into a unified format. And maybe that's more a reasonable approach. I'm curious to hear what other people think.
I hear what you're saying with the not being able to control what the model is outputting, and also there being differences in between, for example, Claude understanding XML better than it does JSON. Yeah, it kind of, I don't know if this is something that needs to be standardized because of what you just said with being able to, it is just language at the end of the day, so you can have this step of, trying to decode whatever format or, map whatever format text like XML or JSON into, your expected schema. And then if that fails, you can just run it through another LLM and tell it to fix it, and it almost always will fix it. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think like I guess maybe what his perspective is more that like you don't have to go into a loop to self-heal and stuff. So kind of simplifying the way that code is run. But I I think what I'm saying is, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, instead of like, it doesn't make sense to standardize, similar to like I'm agreeing with you, it doesn't make sense to standardize like the model direct output, but maybe creating adapters or something is the way to go. Um, and maybe even training a smaller model so that the adapters can be so the adapters, maybe instead of just direct engineering, it could be like a smaller model head that's fine-tuned to convert from one format to another or something. It's my thoughts on this space is very raw here, and yeah, curious to hear what other people think. I guess like the when I say adapter, I'm just saying like from in terms of like AI model side, you can add additional layers to create and freeze the rest of the weights to create a very much fine-tuned, hopefully guaranteed model output from one format to another. So model format, not format in terms of like
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 JSON or
YAML
text.
and
Yeah.
JSON. Yeah, so I more mean like the model has one the model mostly just output text, and in the text it could be, the JSON mode. I believe I don't know if anyone has tried the JSON mode, but I don't think so. It has two main drawback. One is that it doesn't allow you to specify the JSON schema, and second, it doesn't work like 100% of the time. And this is what I was told. I actually haven't really used it. I was kind of like discouraged from using it because of what other people, because of those two things. So if anyone has any ideas on JSON mode, if they used it, please share.
I haven't used the JSON mode. I do remember using this was for one of the hackathons we did. We were actually using Claude, so it wasn't even OpenAI stuff. But it when we responded, we would turn it into a pedantic object and take whatever that JSON was into that pedantic, and it worked sometimes. But it's definitely the kind of thing that you'd have to have that feedback loop most likely to make it work, which adds cost and adds time to it. So as far as creating you're it's just one of those things that needs more time, I guess.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it more, I think like JSON, the way that they did JSON mode is really, really interesting. I wondered if it's on the model side. It must be, I think, right? Because they probably just trained trained with more data that are in JSON format. That's what I'm guessing.
Right.
And I don't know if the implementation is more like kind of an additional like multi-layer perceptron on top of an existing large language model when you have the toggle for JSON mode to be on.
It would make
Um,
sense for it to be another layer on top of GPT, because I think that's how they did the other things, right? They had layers where one layer was like a moderation layer, and then on top of the actual LLM by itself. So they would have multiple layers there to check, is this following the terms of service and all that kind of stuff, right? So turning it on to JSON mode, isn't that just adding one little layer there that just converts it into whatever that is? And technically, wouldn't that also work for if like say you were to make your own custom one? Wouldn't it be easier then if you were able to pass it like a pedantic object or some kind of schema, that it could end up being a lot more static on the inside, on the other side, the output?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess I don't really understand how they implemented it. I
Yeah.
can probably ask ask the OpenAI people. Yeah, I think that would be kind of like what I was proposing, which is like um uh I think LLM, like unifying LLM interface, if anything, is like of the hardest of all things that we can unify. Um, and that would be like an ideal thing that I want our foundation to, play a role in. But I also understand that different foundational model providers just have their foundation model just operates so differently, and we shouldn't just because we're like the user interface side. I think we should personally I think we should get them to work on what they care about the most, and then also if it's compatible with allowing for a unified interface, then they can do this. But I think they should focus on just getting the model to be whatever the most capable possible, without the constraint of a any type of interfaces. This is just my personal view.
Sounds good. Definitely something to look more into. What Does anybody else have thoughts on that as well?
I kind of want to go all the way back to the beginning. Like, what is the use case of something like this, or like to your? I know you didn't write this. Or nobody in this chat wrote this. It was puts, but Yeah, I'm not even sure I understand his problem that he's having in the first place.
Let me take a look here, because there is a document that he shared with me that I could link. Let me make sure I have his blessing to do so, but I can read through some of it here. The proposal he put says to create a standard that can be used to specify what format an LLM should output. And let's see. He prefaces that with, we have some problems with steering the output of the LLM. The LLM may screw up the format, like syntax errors. The LLM may omit items from the desired output object. Of course, this can be mitigated by providing descriptive feedback to the LLM and letting it fix its own output, but a more efficient way would be to constrain the output during generation. This is possible when running models locally, but not when using LLMs through cloud providers like OpenAI. Um, so
Okay, yeah, I get that.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this kind of seems like just I don't know if it would be a standard, but maybe just like an application or sort of a proxy that you could put in front of whatever LLMs, and then something like Open Router, or what was the other thing you linked? Maybe it was just Open Router. Would be a natural place for something like this to live in the stack.
Yeah. Like I think this kind of um adapter layer is, I don't know, like LangChain or semantic kernel should be able to provide something like that, right? That there should be some convenient function that additional step to um it's like a logger or something like that. It can convert any output to any language that you want and also fix those errors. I but I think it's not like a standard thing. Like it's not part of a protocol or something like that. It's more of like a common functionality provided by some um, tool set.
Yeah, LangChain is a good example of trying to like add this sort of adapter. It may not be exactly what we're talking about, but having this middle ground where you're constraining the output or deciding to route to one LLM or another. Lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something else. I'll bring it up if I remember. Oh yeah. What I was gonna say is, there's a lot of attempts at adapters. There's a very natural engineering problem that comes up. You have to, for example, with analytics, you have things like segment IO, where they package a bunch of different analytics provider, and their offering is, you can call out to any analytics platform, but the reality is you still have to configure things to take advantage of the full features of every different platform. And so LangChain currently, like, you still have to interface with like OpenAI types and parameters and things like that. So it's not completely abstracted away if you really want to get the full power of everything. So I think it's a hard thing to really solve for in a generic way.
Well, that's part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get a good base, and then I think the pattern is generally to have that, and then sort of feature specific plugins, I guess.
Hmm. Let me see here.
Do you guys know if OpenRouter is a for-profit company? And if I wonder if they would be interested in if they're not, then they might be interested in donating their project into the foundation.
I don't see any links to like open source on their main website, but I'm not sure yet.
Here's the link to Putz's document on that concept from before. He gave me his blessing. If anybody's interested in giving that a read, I think he generated a concept of it with GPT-4, but definitely something that needs more thought, maybe. And also the everything that you brought up makes sense, but yeah. What was the other thing? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just was wondering the corporation structure of OpenRouter, if they would be interested in donating their project into the foundation and get people to work on it.
Well, they do have a Discord, so maybe we can pop in there sometime and say hello.
Yeah, I feel like it may be interesting to if they don't, I feel like these type of projects, it makes sense to be an open source. It's essentially just adapters, open source nonprofit.
They're definitely not open source from my
Oh, it's not
quick
open source.
searching here. Yeah, they're
Oh wow.
for
If they're not open source, then there's no way that they will be a nonprofit. They're definitely a for-profit company.
Yeah. I'm more interested in things like pedals, which I know doesn't have, it's not necessarily widely used. I don't think it's really ready for production ready content necessarily, but the concept of splitting up a large LLM into multiple pieces to be generated across a decentralized network of compute seems to kind of make sense in a way. I don't know how viable it really is, but pedals is a really cool example that I think could lead into something much better for the future of AI usage in the future, especially as we scale up and if if AI, if LLMs and any other model, thanks for linking it, if any other model or core element becomes so widely used, then having it be in a decentralized network like that kind of does make sense, because otherwise you're relying too heavily on a single provider. And although AWS and other major hosting companies are able to potentially handle that load, you know, I like the idea of it being decentralized a little bit more for the utopian aspect of it, maybe.
Yeah, definitely in other contexts, having a sort of decentralized alternative, even if it's not the most popular thing, is pretty important for censorship resistance at the very least.
Censorship resistance is good. The idea of like to have the ability to use the LLM without the sort of gatekeeping of the pricing models and the corporate infrastructure and any other thing that you got to go through to get to it makes more sense, I think, for smaller scale applications like IoT or something like that. You know, where it really doesn't make sense. You know, you got to be able to have an LLM to do this specific task, maybe, and this specific task, if you were to do that through a non-decentralized entity, then it could cost too much to be worth it, even if it's only cents on the token or whatever, or fractions of cents on the token. It doesn't matter, because at some point you're still paying a lot of money for, you know, like something that might seem novel but would end up being useful, I guess. I don't know. I think of sci-fi as a reference, you know, when we're talking about AI stuff, and you know, how prevalent these things could be in our lives, and how much money are we willing to spend for all that, I guess, for that theoretical future that we see in sci-fi. AI is everywhere, where we have everything all the everywhere, you know. Am I making sense to y'all?
I wanted to just pile on the sci-fi thing. I get, you know, Her, the movie Her is not really sci-fi, but
It's pretty
The
sci-fi.
the very hope I'm not ruining it for anybody, but you had a decade to watch it, so
Yeah.
The end of it is basically like the AIs go away, which is sort of like I thought about that this weekend with OpenAI, just my reliance on it. And, these people are all like walking out of their door, their front doors, like they've never been outside before after having like fallen in love with AIs for a few months or years or whatever it is. And, it is super important to not just have this one or two points of failure
Right.
concentration of power.
And that's also something that I think in some way we've also solved via cryptocurrency in a way, like the 51% attack and things like that are not, they're things that we've, I know I'm bridging a bunch of different topics, so it's a little off topic, but the thing of iRobot, where they have a centralized authority where they control every robot, right? And that isn't necessarily the best thing, because then that one centralized thing could become infected or in some ways, as anybody does, or hacked in some ways, anything does. And so it's possible that it's not the best approach all the time for things like this, because I know I want my C3PO to come into my kitchen and do my dishes, or whatever that is, whatever the future looks like in that realm. And that's why I'm definitely very big on the open source models by comparison to privatized models. But the I think the decentralized concept makes the most sense there.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, I was wondering if we can, it's been a while since we do one of those, but I wonder if we can go over one person by one person, introduce like your name and like where you're from and like what's your day job if you have one, and what is your motivation in participating in these online meetings and this Discord as well. Um, and how do you interact with LLM? So I'll put these questions in the chat. Um, and I'm super curious to get to know you guys more. And obviously, I'm also gonna write my Calendly link here to give to chat with any one of you on a one-on-one capacity to get to know you more. Day job. And then yeah, if I can go first. My name is Sasha. My day job is I run this foundation and try to support open source AI infra. And separately, I go to hackathons a lot, um, and um, and I use a lot of I use when I go to hackathons, I try to use a lot of like AI tools, and so I kind of uh, have a pretty good. I can also give you guys. So we won a hackathon this past weekend, and I can give you guys a demo afterwards if you're interested. But I can also just share the video as well. And yeah, I think for me, what's really I used to be a meta AI researcher. I worked on multimodal learning. And recently, I've been more wanting to read more papers and kind of getting more grounded into like some of the AI research itself. I am going to NeurIPS in New Orleans in December, early December, so that's pretty exciting. So yeah, that's about me. So day job, motivation for joining this foundation, and I guess lastly, how do you interact with LLMs? Do you hack on projects? Are you already building products, etc.? Um, I texted in the chat.
Is it cool if I go next?
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. So my name is actually Josh. Sasha, we met a handful of times IRL, in real life, sorry. But on the last note that you mentioned, actually one group that you might want to check out is actually Oxen AI. I've been going to their sessions for the past couple of weeks, and they've been doing some really good deep dives on kind of both contemporary and historical papers. and really getting down into a lot more of the math. Overall, I think the conversations have just been really good. I'll drop a link for it in here. But in terms of, yeah, so my name is Josh. Day job, I'm on more the blockchain side, and to the kind of working with two different teams right now. And one of the big things that we are looking at is kind of decentralized compute. And there are a couple of crypto teams that are definitely going into this space a little bit more. So I think like the next 12 months is going to be really interesting because teams that were historically very focused on the currency side of blockchain are definitely looking at how other applications can apply, particularly with AI. And so I can share some news of that as it starts to become more public. But that's I think a pretty exciting space. So I'm interested in that and zkML stuff. And I as well have been doing a handful of hackathons. Kind of been doing them pretty aggressively since, or not aggressively, only done maybe like 5 or 6 since like April of last year, and a mix of projects, kind of multimodal stuff. We did some stuff with the segment anything model for a climate hackathon, which we actually won. And yeah, just kind of across the board. But my interest actually is more in longevity and mortality. And so I'm actually looking to raise for a startup on that in the near term. Happy to jam on that a little bit more. And then how do I interact with models? Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in inevitably building kind of my own foundational model, which would be kind of an extension of the project that I was just talking about. And yeah, apologies if I've kind of been a fly on the wall. I think I'm just getting up to speed on a lot of things. And yeah, that's it.
Wow, thanks. Alex, you want to go next? I'm just gonna start naming people.
Yep, sure. Yep. So I just had to mute myself. Yes, I'm Alex Guy. I work in IT for a manufacturing company, so I do a lot of IoT, looking at data from that and just looking at our other data systems. My motivation at the moment is I know I'm going to lose my job in a year's time, and I'm exploring what areas to investigate, and that's what's just the reason to hop on today, just to find out what it's all about. The reason I got this sort of project was from Fast AI. I've been going to meetups on there for probably the last 6 or 7 months now, and yeah, I just love the area, so I'm just investigating. What else did you want to know? Sorry.
Do you work with LLMs in any way?
Yeah. So not creating LLMs, but I use them in various ways, just for personal sort of productivity, but also looking at them in terms of how we can use them with our information systems. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Fire any questions if you got any.
Awesome. Yeah, HJ, you want to go next?
Hello, my name's actually Hui Jing. My day job is I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. So I basically work on company stuff. And how I interact with LM, I would say I'm pretty early in the space. So mostly I just follow the tutorials that I find online, and then um just build those um like like AI 101 stuff and learn um how the model works, how to leverage the model, and then like follow some LangChain and semantic kernel tutorial to like learn about how to basically join all the like ecosystem in AI together. That's that. Um, the motivation is more about like learning, catching up with the space, learn what other people thinks about, and also making contribution to to some projects that I think that they would be useful. Yeah, basically that's it.
Awesome. John, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is John. Last name is Willis. My day job is actually currently starting my own company. WaggleDance.ai is the current iteration of it. And I've actually been working on that in some form for almost a year now. My job last year. I was a mobile engineer, mostly iOS, a little bit of Android, a little bit of web, for about a decade, and I worked at a lot of different startups. I've had a passing interest in AI and machine learning for about like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now. Um, so I've kept tabs on the space. And yeah, I guess basically when ChatGPT came out last year, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, more so than with even things like GitHub Copilot, and I just realized that this was going to become, something I need to, at the very least, really master and work into my workflows. And then, yeah, I saw opportunity for a lot of products and new kind of breakthrough technologies. Um, I think specifically how I interact with LLMs, mostly I'm using an app called Cursor, which is Visual Studio Code with AI kind of integrated in it. And I use that to write code. And then I'm working on Waggledance AI, which is sort of it's a system for agents. I'm kind of looking at it as an orchestration layer, but it's very experimental. Um, it's just an agent. It can automate things. It can do research basically right now. It's very buggy. Um, but yeah, I'm really interested in where this space is going to go, and I'm trying to skill up. And eventually, I'll probably have to get a job or make a successful company. But for now, just learning and making things.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Pallav, you want to go next?
I think he did in the chat there. I don't know if he has
Oh,
a microphone,
got
but it
it.
says, Palav Sharma, no job, just building projects using MERN stack and learning new stuff. I'm here to learn new stuff and want to get to know about AI. Motivation is to learn and get a job. And he has not interacted with LLMs, at least not right now, I guess.
Okay, so then there is another person that starts with a J. I'm on streaming mode, so it's not showing me the full name.
I
Do you
am
want?
as
Do you
well.
mind? Oh, do you mind going next? Yeah.
Is it me? Okay, my name is Juan Camilo Rojas. I'm from Colombia. I work as an IT director for a platform that helps people find some transportation services. I also work as a backend developer here. I do to task. Uh, I'll be I have been programming Java like for 20 years. I also own a gym, and my motivation is to spin up a little bit my career and learn new stuff. And uh, I've been interacting with LLMs a little bit with the AWS ones because the platform we have is running right now in AWS. So what we wanted to have there is to see if we can have a chatbot that helps relieve a little bit uh, the people I have here on the contact center, and also because I have an idea for my gym with an I don't know, like an agent or a chatbot that can help people get their workout done and help them on their journey while they are getting their results. So that's my motivation, and that's the the way I have interacted with LLMs. I'm learning right now. I have currently taken some courses on Coursera and see where it gets me.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I think Zane, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jason Zane Cook. I go by Ziggy online. I recently started my own company, Z90 Studios, but I haven't built anything on there yet. My motivation ever since I was a little boy was to build an army of robots to take over the world, and now with AI becoming more accessible and potentially the robotics also becoming more accessible soon, and augmented reality and virtual reality, there's so many really cool spaces that are going to be popping up soon that can hopefully get us to that sci-fi future I've been waiting for. Um, so that's my main motivation, is just getting in, hopefully be able to work on these things and have fun with them because they're just so cool. Recently I've been in the LLM space. I've been trying to build a refactor sort of thing because I work on a lot of code, and a lot of code is bad, and I'd like code to be better, but it's really hard to make code better. So making code better is my number one priority, and I'm hopefully, along with everybody else that's working on that, going to be able to figure that stuff out. So that's what I'm up to right now.
Great. Brian, I believe we didn't do you yet. We cannot hear you. I don't know if it's problem with the audio. I think you're muted right now.
Yeah, he's
There we go. Sorry, that's
Yep.
back.
Oh.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm Brian. I run some AI art events in San Francisco. Used to work at Twitch for a bit, and just been doing kind of like the startup thing for the last 2 years, just working with every new kind of AI technology, but now seeking to transition back to big tech. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, but I just go to a lot of events in the city and just follow the space.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So I posted two links in the chat. One is my Calendly link if you want to schedule to talk one-on-one and see, to get to know each other more. You're welcome to use that. And also, I just shared my weekend hackathon hack. And I know we're running out of time, so I won't. I don't know if you guys want me to kind of like run through this video or you can also just watch it on your own and text me if you have any questions or anything. I'm pretty chill here, so yeah. Any that's all I have. I think Zane, do you want to take it away and
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to ask the group here is, are any of you interested in having a coding session or a sit down to talk about the actual technologies and really work on them together or anything like that? Is that something that would interest you guys?
And I think he's referring to the agent protocol.
The agent protocol, yep, and building things with the agent
And
protocol, whether that's tools or additions to the client. There's some other things that we have in the agent protocol repository. There's a milestone for V2 that we need to work on, and stuff like that. Then also generally in the agent protocol adjacent areas of using that tool and building things off of it, and conceptually what people would be interested in talking about and learning on. I see some talk in the chat. We might do an event for something like that again at some point here in the near future.
Ziggy, I had actually Sasha's audio playing in the beginning of when you started talking. What can you repeat just like the first two sentences?
Oh, just would you be interested in having sort of a coding session, a get together that's more code focused around the agent protocol and adjacent work?
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Like a recurring meeting.
Yeah, a recurring meeting. Initially I had thought Fridays around maybe 10 o'clock PST would be good. I'm not sure if everybody's down for that. I might put up a poll for that and see what everybody's down for. I'm down for the weekends or whatever anybody's uh, whatever everybody is most comfortable with. I think it would make sense, and it would get some more progress flowing with the agent protocol and all that kind of stuff. So if y'all are interested, I'll set up a poll for that later. Is there anything that anybody else wanted to talk about? I know we're getting close to the hour mark here, so
Hey Zig, Joseph here. I only joined quite late, but about the recurring meeting for coding, it's quite a huge commitment forever.
forever, yeah.
But there's my point being is that there's I'm trying to get something going with semantic kernel, Microsoft Research, and AutoGen, and the agent protocol like compatibility is an issue that maybe could be addressed in the context of semantic kernel moving towards release 1.0. So although it's not a recurring meeting, like a one-off type of community event where we kind of get together and fix this compatibility issue, I think that's good to keep an eye out for. And for sure, I'll be trying to promote it and get you guys on board for something like that.
Definitely. If you want to make a discussion post or put that in the agent protocol channel, that way we can touch back on that, and then I'll set up the poll here soon on the events channel and get everybody involved on that so that we can figure out a good time for everybody to sit down and work on stuff. Then we'll definitely get going there.
You got it. When I have more info, I'll make a discussion post. That sounds good to me.
Alrighty. If there's nothing else, I think this is a good point to call it for this meeting. Thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully you had some useful insights, and hope to see you in the next meeting.
Thank you, Zane. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Stay frosty.